Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And boy, oh boy, are you ready for some confusing mechanics that don't make any sense, but actually might be pretty good overall? If you are, you're really going to enjoy today's video, because there are some changes coming, well, some changes in testing to the air defense mechanics, as they call them in this DevBlog. Link to this will be in the description down below if you want to check out this article as I read it aloud. Any relevant images or artwork will be shown up on screen as we go through this. And if you do enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment before you click off of it. It helps out on the YouTube side of things. So let's go ahead and get on into this. So stay with me here. The way they word this is incredibly confusing for two reasons. One, these devlogs are, of course, things they're in testing that I'm guessing are kind of quickly typed out and then sent out. And two, the way that this is going to work is also just a giant what moment. But let's get into it. So they say changes to air defense mechanics, closed testing. In the near future, a closed testing session will be held to trial a new mechanic prototype related to air defense. In the upcoming session of public tests, we will continue testing the possible changes to air defenses that we already spoke of earlier. And here they link into their previous devblog where they talk about what is essentially an AA rework. They're changing the way that plane squadrons attack and are dealt with in terms of what planes get targeted and, what point do they lock in the amount of planes that are in the attacking squadrons. Some interesting changes, and I'll link to that video either here in the description down below. We already covered that. But this is something that's being added on top of the changes that are coming and aren't, with those. So they continue this time. A number of new mechanics will be added on top of the changes we mentioned previously. The depth charge airstrike armament will now have an alternative firing mode with distinct characteristics and aiming mechanics. With this alternative mode active, the airstrike aircraft fly to the indicated point and starts to patrol similarly to the fighter consumable. Okay, so at first you might be thinking, oh, so it's like if I think of submarines in an area, I can kind of toss it over there, and perhaps if the submarines, ping or are spotted, it might work like carrier ASW. That's what I thought when I was reading through this the first time, but not exactly. They say, while being pursued by aircraft deployed through the alternative airstrike mode, squadrons completely lose the ability to detect ships. They can, however, still see ships that are already detected by allies. Okay. And that might be where I lost some of you. You might be thinking, hold up a second. Is this talking about other airstrike aircraft, like the ones you can get with the Dutch cruisers, like the Trump and the Dutch cruiser line? Or are they talking about maybe an alternative mode for fighters or whatever, to where when they pursue other fighters, they cancel out their spotting? No, they are talking about the ASW aircraft pursuing other aircraft now. Yes, your Catalina will be running down the attack aircraft of other squadrons. And apparently in this alternative firing mode, it doesn't do anything with ASW, at least from what we read here. It is an alternative mode where your ASW aircraft will now pursue enemy planes, and when they're being pursued by your ASW aircraft, they lose the ability to spot. I'm going to let that process for a second in your brain. Does it make sense? No. Catalinas were really cool in real life. And of course, other nations have other aircraft, but just the Catalina as an example as one of the most used ASW aircraft. Catalinas were cool. Long duration. Had a couple of 30 cals and 50 cals on board. So sure, they could shoot at crap, but they're not fast. At least you can't go fast for too long, because that's how you decrease your fuel range. And these, again, were more of long duration search and rescue or ASW aircraft. Does it make sense? No. Is it something that's a positive change? I think so. I think this will help cut back on the frustration of plane spotting. Granted, nowadays plane spotting is mostly done by fighters dropped by CVs. Planes don't typically, like the planes that the players control, don't typically hang around because they start eating more flak and you lose planes, and of course that takes time to regen on the carrier, so it takes away from your damage that you can do. Unless it's like the last ship or two that's alive on the enemy team, the CV will typically just drop fighters and keep on going on about his way. So yeah, is it a neat effect? Sure. Something that needs to be looked at? Sure, but yeah, okay. And that's not the rest of it. Here's the rest of it. Unlike fighters, these planes are capable of pursuing an enemy squadron for an extended period of time, though they do not cause significant damage to their HP. AA effectiveness will be higher against squadrons that are being pursued by airstrike planes. Once again, does that make sense? No. In real life, the crews of the AA guns would go silent when there's friendly aircraft in the area. Why? Well, would kind of suck for your friend and his Corsair to eat a 40mm Beaufort round through this cockpit when he's trying to deal with the planes that are trying to sink your ship. So, to avoid friendly fire, typically, if they knew, they'd stop shooting. But okay, when they're being pursued by your ASW aircraft now, they're pursuing attack aircraft that are much faster than them, the AA does more damage, or its effectiveness is higher. It doesn't say it does more damage, it says its effectiveness is higher. What is effectiveness? They state that's a new parameter that sets the chance that continuous damage will be dealt to an aircraft from an attacking group of the squadron. Otherwise, the damage will be dealt to the aircraft from the rest of the squadron. So, oh my god, it's also really confusing because a lot of these new mechanics aren't very clear, and it needs to be explained a little bit more. So, from what I'm getting out of this, your ship's AA, its effectiveness will go up, and then the effectiveness of the squadrons that are maybe pursuing it along with your ASW planes will go up too. It's, again, very confusing. They continue, at the same time, the airstrike aircraft themselves are incapable of detecting enemy ships under any circumstances, and they are vulnerable to AA. This new mechanic will allow surface ships captains to actively defend themselves and their allies against enemy aircraft by reducing their spotting potential, and it will also make the airstrike armament more versatile. So, does it make any sense logically? Abso-friggin-lutely not. Is it something that needs to be looked at? Yes. Is it a good change? I think so. The airstrike armament is something that you either desperately need or you don't even need to think about it. Either a submarine's in the game and you need it, or they're in the game but they're on the other side of the map so you don't need it, or they're not in the game and you don't need it. You never really have to use it. And I mean, heck, it will cut back on a lot of the spotting. There's a lot of frustration comes from plane spotting. So many times have I, as I'm sure you guys watching, have been, of course, our planes have been cut short because the plane that's spotting us is, spotting us, and maybe it's outside of your AA range, and it's just on the edge of your AA spotting range, and you can't really do anything about it, but it can still spot you. Since most ships have ASW aircraft, yeah, I think it's a good change. It's an interesting mechanic. It gives more value to the ASW aircraft. And it's another pretty useful tool to be used against CVs, because now it's either, okay, you can keep your planes here and you can, do runs and such if the enemy ships are spotted, because you can't do any spotting anymore. Or you can, F out, go back to your carrier and try again. But I would like more information. The way this devblog is worded is kind of confusing. Again, I think a large part of that is just because of how, crazy this is, having ASW aircraft, just run down attack aircraft somehow. But yeah, some more information would be needed, Wargaming. Some clarification would also be greatly encouraged and accepted. But it's an interesting change. This is just a conception test too, guys. This isn't something that's like 100% for sure going to come to the main server. it might be shelved. A lot of these times when these conception tests get mentioned, they're mentioned in a DevBlog, and then we never hear from them again. Like the destructible environment, there was a mechanic that was being tested where you could destroy the terrain. What happened to it? I don't know. It never got out of testing apparently, and we haven't heard from Wargaming about that since then. So this could go, you know, if it works well, which, I mean, it sounds like it would, it could very quickly get into the game. We might not hear about it in another year, but that's what's going on. So guys, let me know in the comments down below your 2 cents on this change. It's a kind of out of left field type of thing for me, but I'm looking forward to hearing more, and again, it might help cut back on a lot of the frustration with dealing with CVs. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 50,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday and wonderful rest of your weekend. I hope to catch you guys in the next one.